Hello and welcome to our series of VODCASts with CLEO Systems. I'm Glenn Tomset and it's my great pleasure to welcome various people from the organisation to chat about what they do. Today we welcome Dr. Paul Perry. Paul is Board Medical Director and no stranger to our VODCAST series. Paul, how are you doing? How do we find you?
I'm very well, thanks, Glenn.
Good to see you again. So we've got a number of questions to ask you, but first of all, tell us about your role as Medical Director at CLEO Systems and how this impacts clinical safety in a positive way.
Yeah, thank you very much. So my role at CLEO Systems is the Board Medical Director. So my role is looking after clinical governance to ensure that everything we do within CLEO, whether it be design new products or further develop old products, that they're safe and adhere to NHS England's regulatory compliance standards, particularly around digital safety. And then in the background as well, I'm also a GP, still practice in daytime and still do a lot of urgent care and out of hours work as well.
So clearly you keep very busy then. I understand you're also a trained clinical safety officer. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you. I suppose the clinical safety officer role, the CSO role, is something stipulated by NHS England, again, ensuring that technologies that are designed and developed from the commercial supplier perspective are safe and effective and can be used within that NHS or the customer-based environment. And so the clinical safety officer role, it looks at, I suppose, clinical risks and hazards potentially that might happen along that patient journey with the use of those products and solutions, and what we can do to reduce that risk to as low as we can go and to control and mitigate for hazards and risk as well. And again, my role alongside other clinical safety officers that we have within the organisation is working in a multidisciplinary team. So we work very closely with the product team, very closely with marketing, communications, and also the service desk as well. Particularly, we want that feedback from our customers to see how our products are doing, and also if there's any safety incidents that they've come across as well.
Okay. Perhaps you can tell us also about some of the training and what that involves.
Yeah, thank you. So I suppose the training, first and foremost, comes from just being a clinician. I think, I've been a medical doctor now for 22 years, and, so very, very clearly know and understand that healthcare environment that we work in. And then secondly, it's around, getting into digital health technologies. And there's training that NHS England do, particularly around that digital clinical safety officer role. So specifically lots of modules, courses you can go on, e-learning. And also, like any role, it's around experience. So on-the-job training and experience as well. And so within CLEO, we ensure that our clinical safety officers have ongoing training and learning to further develop them, to improve their skill set, and again, to really ensure that we have safety at the top of our agenda.
Safety clearly is number one priority, I'm guessing. But as Medical Director at CLEO Systems, tell us about how you approach embedding the DCB standards across the product lifecycle.
Yeah, so the DCB standards were rolled out by NHS England a number of years ago, particularly looking at, certain things that need to be done from a commercial supplier perspective, and also from the deployment and implementation perspective within the NHS. So the DCB standards that we adhere to are the 0129, and the way that we embed those are, throughout the whole of the organisation and the products as well. So first and foremost, if we have a new product, we get together and do what's called a hazard workshop with multiple different team members, product team, product owners, clinicians like myself join the hazard workshop. And essentially what we do is we look at potential clinical hazards using that technology within a patient pathway. And once we identify those hazards, we look at the products and solutions to ensure that things are designed and developed to ensure that they are safe to be deployed. And again, there's lots of things within the DCB standards that we adhere to ensure that we are compliant to roll out software.
So what practical approaches have you found effective in building a strong safety culture across clinical and technical teams, particularly when driving innovation at pace?
Yeah, I think reflecting on my experience, particularly having worked with the NHS for 22 years, NHS has a very safety culture mindset, particularly around clinical governance, patient safety and quality improvement. So I brought that experience into CLEO. And what we do at CLEO here, particularly around, I suppose, the clinical safety remit is particularly, having the right processes and systems in place to ensure that we have good clinical governance, to ensure that the products and solutions that we're rolling out are safe and effective and adhere to those regulatory standards. And again, just having those open, conversations and communications, not always, obviously when things go well, but things also don't go so well too. Might be bugs or fixes and defects within that product. And so we take that back into the team, we have an open conversation about it, we learn from those experiences and also improve the product going forward. So again, it's just around having an open and honest communication channel with team members and staff, and again, just implementing and disseminating that throughout the business.
I'm guessing communication within the organisation is vital, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Are there particular clinical safety or governance lessons from CLEO systems that you think should be shared more broadly across the NHS and the supplier community, Paul?
Yeah, I think initially it's around ensuring that not just that you meet the regulatory requirements for the DCP standards within NHS England, but it's around just ensuring that you have the right clinical governance in place, the structures, the processes and systems within an organisation to ensure that there are checks and balances within that. So, for example, we have a clinical safety committee that has been set up, and at that meeting that we meet monthly, we discuss all of our clinical safety case reports, any bugs, any fixes, any safety incidents or adverse events. And with all of those, we're always looking to improve ourselves, not just in terms of re-looking at the hazards that may or may not be there, but also ensuring that the products and solutions that we design, develop and deploy are safe to use.
And what do you see as the biggest opportunities and indeed the threats facing clinical safety as NHS digital maturity increases?
Yeah, I think, Glenn, there's a couple of things. I think the first one is particularly in cybersecurity. It's a big topic at the moment, with particularly in that software healthcare industry. There's numerous examples that have happened, not just from a commercial supplier perspective, but also the deployment within the NHS. So very mindful of having a really secure system in place. And secondly, as well, it's ensuring that clinical safety is at the heart of everything within a commercial organisation like CLEO, to ensure that we're always having those clinical safety conversations right at the start in terms of designing a new product or solution, whether it be the UI or functionality, and also discussing it with our customer base as well, particularly clinicians on the shop floor, to ensure that not only do they like it as a customer, but can they see any gaps or areas that we could improve on as well. So I think, just to summarise, there's two things. I think, listening to customers, really engaging and working in partnership with them. And secondly, just being very mindful of that ongoing security risk, particularly around cybersecurity and ransomware attacks.
Well, Dr. Paul Perry, that's great. I'm afraid we're out of time. Paul is Board Medical Director. Thanks for being with us today, and thank you for watching. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Glenn. It's been a pleasure to talk with you today, and look forward to our next session.